2 of the 2021-2022. And our topic of discussion today is focusing on strategies and tools for community networks. I would like to welcome you all, and my name is James Gondwe, and I'm your moderator today. I work with the Center for Youth and Development as its executive director. We are a local organization in Malawi that focuses on leveraging on technology to promote better lives for children and young people in Malawi. And as an organization, one of our core interventions is on trying to seed community networks in Malawi. And I am also a member of the program committee for the Community Network Summit in Africa. Yeah. So today we've got multiple objectives, but the overall objective is focusing on helping participants to understand strategies and tools for network monitoring. And we are hoping that by the end of this session, we're going to help participants answer the following key questions. Question number 1 is, what is network monitoring? And what do we monitor, but also why do we monitor? We're also going to look at the strategies for network monitoring. And then we're also going to look at the pro, but also open source tools that can be used for network monitoring. So a quick walkthrough in terms of the agenda. So overall, we're going to go through ground rules. After ground rules, we're going to go into a presentation by Kevin Chege, who is going to take us through the introduction to network monitoring. After that, we're going to have probably some questions, but after that, we're going to have a panel discussion looking at experience sharing, implementing of network monitoring tools and their advantages and disadvantages, and what are they using, what tools are they using, but also what are they using the monitoring for. So we've got panelists, we've got Brian Longwe from Converged Technology Networks from Malawi. And then we also have got Benson Olobo from BOSCO in Uganda. And then we also have got Stephen Fosu from Step Network in Ghana. So after that, we're going to have a session where we're going to discuss overall the presentation, but also what the panelists have said, and also provide room for question and answers. And then we're going to close from there. A quick walk through the housekeeping rules. So, please note that this session is being recorded, and the recording will be made available after the session. It is also streamed live on social media, Facebook, Twitch, and Periscope. And then we also request that you engage respectively and responsibly. And then when asking questions or speaking, please keep it short, straight to the point, and simple. Kindly format your questions with your first name and country. So for example, you'd say, I'm Emily from Ethiopia, or Jacinta from Uganda, Theo from Mali, etc. And get familiar with the Internet Society Code of Conduct, which is available on the link that has been displayed there. So you can go there and be able to have access to the Code of Conduct. In terms of engagement, you can engage throughout the conversation. So you can engage by by making sure that you include in your social media post the following hashtags: hashtag community networks and hashtag switch it on. In terms of interpretation, we've got audio language support in terms of English and French. So you can speak in French, you can comment in French, it's going to be translated. And then those that have got are speaking in, those that would want to listen in French, just have to enable it. You go on interpretation, and then you can be able to enable it from there, so that you should be able to choose the language that you want to listen to. Captioning is available in English as well. In terms of the chat room, use the chat room to discuss with other attendees. Please raise your hand if you want to speak. And if not speaking, hit the button to deactivate it. In terms of questions, you can post your questions in the Q&A room, and not in the chat room. So there is a specific room that has been made available for you, and then you should be able to post your questions there. You can be able to see it from the picture. Right, so getting into the business, I would like to invite Kevin Chege to take us through the introduction of network monitoring. Before Kevin Chege comes in, a quick introduction to Kevin Chege. Kevin Chege works with the Internet Society, and he joined the Internet Society in the year 2012, and he is the Internet Development Manager. He joined as the Internet Development Manager for Africa, but currently he is working as the Director for Internet Development, and he's based at the African Regional Bureau. Kevin has got over 17 years experience in the tech space. He started working with Kenneth, and within Kenneth, he served as the network manager, responsible for IP network design, training, network operations, and network services, including management of DNS services, email, and web hosting. And Kevin is engaged in several projects at ISOC related to technical capacity building communities of practice, internet measurements, and open internet standards. He helps design technical online teaching as well, and courses and online labs used to train engineers in several languages. Over to you, Kevin.
Thank you, James. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. So my name is Kevin. I will take you through network monitoring. So we'll talk about, we'll do a quick introduction of network monitoring, why you should consider monitoring your network, what to monitor, how to monitor, and some common tools, which I'll briefly go over. So what is network monitoring? It simply means monitoring devices or services in your network over a sustained period of time. The reason to do this is to help identify issues and also identify potential areas for improvement in your network. You would often do this with monitoring tools. There are several tools out there, free and commercial. We'll mostly focus on the free tools. And you can use these tools to monitor your availability, reachability of various devices. So continuously monitoring your network can help you identify potential issues, find out if your services are reachable. You can find out if you've paid for services from an internet service provider. If you're paying for bandwidth, are you receiving what you paid for? If you yourself are an ISP, or let's say, I know a number of you are from community networks, are you delivering what you've promised to your clients or to your users? Also, is there abnormal traffic in the network that you need to investigate on? Is there potential traffic that indicates an attack of some sort? Also, very important reasons to monitor your network are to track growth over time. Tracking growth means you can tell when to increase capability of your network, increase devices, or increase resources. And also, you want to be able to fix problems or improve performance. And I'll just direct your attention to the chart there on the right. If you look at this, it's showing, so this is basically a chart showing a breakdown of traffic usage in a network. And you can see two of the highest used services here, remote, top remote hosts are Quad 8 and DNS.Google. So, cumulatively, those two are consuming about 29% of network traffic. And if you would want to improve the performance in your network, you could significantly reduce this, because we know this is probably DNS traffic. So you could consider, for example, installing a local DNS service in your network, and this would further free up the bandwidth in your network usage. So this is a potential way of using monitoring to improve services in your network. So I'm hoping I've convinced you already to monitor your network. So let's see what you need. Before you start monitoring your network, you should have an inventory of all the devices you have in your network. So switches, servers, routers. Are you providing specific services in your network, email, DNS, web, and so on? Also, very important is you should know the topology of your network. By topology, it means how are the different devices connected to each other? Is there, a chain of devices? Are there different hops to reach before you get to a certain service? And that way you can properly configure monitoring in your network. You will also need a monitoring server. Now, a monitoring server in this case is a server that will be focused or dedicated to performing network monitoring in your network. You often don't need specialized hardware. It's very possible to reuse a certain server that you're not using anymore. You can even consider using small devices like Raspberry Pis, depending on what tools you're going to run. So more often than not, you will not need to purchase new equipment to perform network monitoring in your network until your network really grows significantly. So what do you want to monitor? You want to monitor availability. Are your devices online? Key devices like routers, access points, switches, are they reachable? Are they available? Are they online? You also want to measure reliability. Are your services reliable? So for example, are you providing in your community network, are you providing something like a web content server? Are you providing a DNS service? Are you providing an email service? How reliable is it? It's reachable now, but how reliable is it over a period of time? If there are constant outages, it may mean that your consumers or your users are not having a good experience. And so this could then result in high calls to you about problems in your network. You also want to measure performance, the links you provision. So in a community network, let's say you provision a link for 1 MB, 2 MB or so. Is that throughput achievable? Is there something limiting the throughput coming through? Can you prove over time that you've been able to provide the 1 Mbps or 10 Mbps and can actually measure it? And you also want to measure usage. So you provisioned your network, everything's working fine, but is it a scenario whereby one user is able to consume all the internet bandwidth available to all the users? Meaning, if one heavy user is there, all the other users get a bad experience. So you need to be able to monitor the usage to track if there is potential abuse in your network. Now, as I mentioned, you have several options for monitoring tools. There are hundreds, perhaps even thousands available. They all differ in capability. Some have graphical user interfaces. You can access them over the web. Some of them are only command line. And some tools are stronger than other tools when monitoring certain services. So you'll have a number of criteria to consider and a number of tools to decide before picking one to move on. So I've just listed here a couple of criteria which you should consider when selecting tools. The tool you use should be in wide use. If it's not used by a large community of users, it means if you run into a problem, let's say you've installed this monitoring tool on your server and you get a problem, if it's not widely used, it means there's a high chance that it's you won't get answers to the questions of the problems you're experiencing. Is it well documented? Is it documented such that it's very clear to you when you're using this monitoring tool how to enable services, disable services, how to secure the monitoring tool, and what type of resources you need, and how you can be able to fix things yourself? Is it affordable? There are many tools, as I mentioned. You have commercial tools, very nice ones, expensive, but perhaps you don't need an expensive tool to start with. You could start with a free and open source tool. Does it have a web graphical user interface? Web graphical user interface is very useful because it means you can be able to check the performance of your network or the availability of your network using a laptop or even easier with a mobile phone. And the web tools that have web interfaces are very, very intuitive and very nice to use over tools that require you to use command line. Alert functionality is very important. You need to be able to know, for example, has there been a problem in your network? Can you be notified? Can the tool send you an email or an SMS that something's gone wrong? Is the tool compatible with your existing infrastructure? If the tool requires you to drastically change your network, drastically change hardware, perhaps you're down the wrong path. Perhaps you should look for another tool. And you should also consider a tool that is frequently updated. These days, security is, of course, a big issue. So tools that are often updated not only increase in features, but they also there's a high chance they're more secure than a tool that's not frequently updated. So let's assume you've started monitoring your network and you've deployed your tool, you've set up all the monitoring, and over time, you'll be able to understand what your network looks like. So as you run your monitoring, maybe for weeks, months, and years, you'll be able to know what is normal, what constitutes normal behavior in your network. And this way, you'll be able to set thresholds. So you can say, for example, if my RAM usage on a certain server goes over a certain number, it may mean something is wrong. If network utilization on a certain link goes below a certain amount, it may mean there's a problem you need to check. If network utilization goes higher than you're expecting on a certain link or hardware, it may indicate there's another problem. And you also want to store this data for a long period of time. When you're monitoring your network, you need to be able to store this data for months and years. And this will help you keep track of trends. So for example, you can tell how well your network is performing, how is it growing, is it time to increase the number of access points? Do you need to increase bandwidth? Do you need to purchase more bandwidth from your internet service provider? If you're an internet service provider, if you're a community network in this case, and you have a heavy client who's using a lot of the bandwidth, should you consider increasing the bandwidth to them and perhaps billing them more for the service? So we're going to look at some commonly used monitoring tools. There are very many tools, as I mentioned. Just give a brief recap of the ones that you're probably already using or you've probably heard about. One is Nagios. It's a very popular tool. I've used it before. Several people still use it. It's been there for a very long time. This will monitor your services and your device availability. So your services here, for example, if you're providing DNS, email, or web, or if you want to check if your core devices are up, Nagios is a very good tool for that. And it has a very nice web front end. You can quickly check in everything over your phone. It can send alerts if something goes wrong, if a service is not available. And monitoring services, just to distinguish, you may, for example, let's say you have a web server or an email server. It may be responding to one service like ping, but you need to monitor all the services that need to be available. So if it's email, is port 25 open, is port 587 open, and so on. And Nagios is very good at monitoring all those services. Cacti is another very good tool for monitoring traffic usage. Perhaps many of you in the CNs are already using this. This is actually a graph from one of the CNs. And the good thing with Cacti is that it's very good for tracking trends over time. And it can tell you if a link is overutilized or underutilized. So this link, for example, here is for a link for about 100 Mbps. When you see the line flat topping, it means that link is hitting capacity. So if you're seeing that over a long period of time, perhaps it means it's time to increase capacity on that link. You may even use another calculation called the 95th percentile, which shows you how much traffic you're using 95% of the time. And you could use that to make a judgment call to say, because traffic is sustained over a certain amount, it is time to consider increasing bandwidth to that client or purchasing more bandwidth from your ISP. SmokePing is another very good tool. It monitors your latency and packet loss. So latency is how long it takes for a packet to move from one side of a network to the other side. Latency is very important when you're doing real-time traffic like video. So if you see a lot of latency, a lot of packet loss in your network, usually that means any sort of video or VoIP or live traffic where people are communicating is going to struggle. So SmokePing is very good at measuring that and detecting that. Another tool which is not frequently used, but you may need to spin it up quickly in case you're trying to find out if traffic is being misused maybe by one user. Perhaps one user is consuming too much traffic. You have a 10 Mbps link and you turn on NetOp, you'll be able to tell who exactly is using, downloading files, downloading movies, which is then affecting everyone else's ability to use the network. So NTOP is a very nice tool. There used to be an older tool which was very nice for this as well. It's called Bandwidth D. You can Google for Bandwidth D and see, but it's not updated very frequently. That is a very nice tool also to test abuse, and it's very useful in a LAN scenario. So if you get a call from a certain a certain community, a certain group of users that you have, and they say, yeah, you've given us 10 Mbps, but it's slow for me. You may need to spin up NTOP or similar tools. So I've quickly mentioned a couple of tools, but not all of them. There are others here I've mentioned which you could consider. OpenNMS, Zabbix, LibreNMS, very good tools as well, which you should look at. I've mentioned there's something called NetFlow. NetFlow is what you call slightly more advanced type of monitoring. If you want to track down protocols and you want to track down what's happening on your router in terms of the traffic coming in, going out, is it which IP addresses came in, which IP addresses are traversing your network, what protocols are being used in your network. NetFlow is very good for that. And what you're seeing here is a sample report of NetFlow, which shows you a breakdown of the actual traffic passing through a network. So you can tell, is my network being used legitimately? Are people browsing? Are people doing file downloads? Are people doing movie downloads and so on? So I've gone through a lot. I'll just quickly mention here some resources which you can use to read up on with more materials. AFNOG, the annual training workshop, has a lot of materials on network monitoring and management. There's a full course there. It's a 5-day course, and you can go to that link and see the last iteration of the training course. You can go through it. Very useful if you want to get into network monitoring. The various tools that I've mentioned, and the several others, it's always good to check on them, check on the documentation, and of course find out from other networks. If there's a community network that's already running some sort of monitoring tool, you can reach out to them, find out more. Your local network operator group, there's a high chance that your local NOG has some sort of training available to you in terms of network monitoring and management. They'll probably use a lot of the materials there from AFNOG. Strongly suggest that you look into that if you're interested in getting into network monitoring. Finally, just an update on something that's coming soon that would be of interest to many of you who are interested in network monitoring. ISOC does have a lot of e-learning content, and we are developing a course that is called Networks 2.0. So you may have taken Networks 1.0. Networks 2.0 will have a module on network monitoring. So this will be available from next year. So keep track of the updates from ISOC. It will include something about Networks 2.0, which will include network monitoring. So I think I'd like to stop here. I've mentioned a number of tools and methods here. So thank you very much. I'll hang on and see if there are any more questions. Back to you, James.
Thank you so much, Kevin. That's quite an introduction. I think a lot of information has been provided within the shortest possible time, and it's really appreciated. We are very certain that the presentations will be made available on the event page afterwards. So please do check it up after a few days, be able to check it out, and you can have access to the presentation as well. For now, I would like to request those who are joining using other people's links, please make sure that you're able to rename so that you can change the name that is there and put your name there. Just click on your name and then you will be able to rename it. All right, so we've got about 5 minutes that we can be able to ask questions to Kevin, and Kevin can be able to respond. We already have questions in the chat. I've seen, I think, a few questions that are there, so I can be able to walk through. But otherwise, if anyone has got questions, would like to ask, you're welcome to raise your hand, and then you can be given a chance to ask a question. Kevin, there is one question. I think this one is more of like a comment. Somebody says, I'm a newbie and I want to understand the concept of bandwidth. I know some point that you mentioned about bandwidth, but I don't know whether it's something that can easily be covered within the time that we have allocated. But if you can be able to respond to that in a way. And then somebody has asked of, I'm assuming that this is a tool, is in top shows the details about the person who initiated the traffic. I think he's asking if the tool is able to show the details about the person who initiated the traffic. Okay. Other than that, yeah, go on.
Thanks, James. So I'll quickly answer the questions. So when you hear the term bandwidth, bandwidth is the amount of data that can be transferred from one point to another point in a network. And it is often used to describe how fast an internet link is, how much data can be transferred. So usually when you're provisioning a link, or if you're paying for an internet connection from an internet service provider, they will tell you this link has a bandwidth of, let's say, for example, 10 megabits per second. That tells you the maximum amount of data that can be transferred from your network to via the ISP's network is 10 megabits per second. So it usually means the amount of data that can be transferred. Then for data for NTOP, I didn't see the question on NTOP, but NTOP can show you the IP addresses or the users. Let's say, for example, if you can match that with DNS, it can show you the machines on your network and what traffic they are doing. And you can couple that with other tools to tell you how much bandwidth that user is using. So for example, let's say you have a 10 Mbps link, it is all used up, you're using 10 Mbps bandwidth. NTOP can help you find out the top user is this, they call it the top talkers. This is the top IP address of the top user. And this is the service they are accessing. Maybe they're accessing web, or they're accessing YouTube and so on. So if you use a tool like Cacti, Cacti will give you a general look. It will tell you, you have a 10 Mbps link, all of it is used up. When you need to go a level deeper to find out exactly who's using the bandwidth in your network, you'd use a tool like NTOP to give you a breakdown to tell you, this is the IP address that is using the most bandwidth in your network. I hope I've answered that question.
Yes, certainly, I hope so. And then there is a question, I think it's coming from Alfonso, is asking, as CN's image running this number of systems, in brackets tools from different vendors, becomes very difficult. What do you think can be done to make CNs achieve network monitoring easier? Let me ask, I think about two, let me read out two, and then you can be able to respond. And then there is another one. When shall a network consider moving from an open source to a commercial network monitoring tool? And then once you respond to this, I will give an opportunity to Ahid to be able to ask another question.
Okay, thanks, James, and thanks for the questions. So, Alphonse, I'll say for CNs, whenever possible, when you want to add the number of the equipment or devices in your network and you're interested in monitoring them, check on whether they support the open standards for collecting measurement information. And I didn't mention SNMP, which is a standard for collecting metrics from devices, but you should check if the hardware you're purchasing supports SNMP. It's an open standard and it's supported by different vendors. So just check if your vendor, and this is it's a vendor neutral standard. Just make sure the devices you're purchasing support SNMP, and you'll be able to monitor any device regardless of the vendor using the tools like Cacti and Nagios and so on. So that's what I would say is a good strategy to make sure whatever vendor you bring in, and as CNs, you need to be flexible. You need to bring in different vendors. SNMP is a good protocol that you need to check if it's supported by your vendor. Then the second question is when to consider moving to a commercial network monitoring tool. I think if you have exhausted all the freely available tools, when you've exhausted the capability of the freely available tools, that's when you consider moving to a commercial tool. Let me mention that I ran a network for several years, and just with the freely available tools, we're able to monitor networks with gigabit connections. So we didn't really need to go beyond what is available freely and open source. If you need to go to a commercial product, it will mean you've really exhausted the capability. You're monitoring data at very large volumes. That's when you need a customized tool, or a very a commercial tool which will probably offer more functionality. But I would say be broad, look at all the open source tools, make sure you understand what you're looking for. There are hundreds, if not thousands, and there's a very high chance you're going to find what you're looking for from the open source and freely available tools. If and when you exhaust that, then consider a commercial tool.
Yeah, a great tip, I think, on the commercial versus the open source tool there. Ahid, please, you can unmute yourself and then be able to ask your question.
Thank you, James, for the chance to be able to ask the question. Kevin, thank you very much for a good presentation. So my question is, so what would you recommend as the best as a monitoring tool for an upcoming for a starting as a CN? Someone a CN which is actually starting up, what will be the best tool to start up with? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rahil. I would say to start, have a look at Nagios and Cacti. Those two tools will monitor two main services for you. They will monitor availability. They will monitor availability, so Nagios will monitor availability. It will help you to determine if all your infrastructure is reachable. So as a CN, you'll probably have several access points spread over a large geographic location. All of them will have some sort of IP address that is reachable. Nagios can help you monitor all those devices in your infrastructure and alert you if one of those devices is not reachable. Another tool is Cacti. Cacti will measure bandwidth and tell you utilization. So if you've purchased, I don't know, 100 Mbps from your internet service, your upstream to sell to your clients, Cacti will monitor that for you and give you very good statistics and give you very good usage. And then the final tool I'll say is SmokePing. SmokePing will measure your latency to the different devices that you have. So those three tools, Nagios, Cacti, SmokePing, they're very lightweight. You don't need a lot of CPU or RAM resources to run them. You can get tools that combine all the features of Nagios, Cacti, and SmokePing into one package, something like Zabbix and so on. But they do need a bit more resources in terms of CPU storage and RAM. So if you're constrained in terms of the server you can deploy for monitoring, definitely start with those three. They're very lightweight. You don't need a lot of resources. You could probably even run them on something small like a Raspberry Pi. These are very lightweight tools. As your network grows, as your needs grow, then you can graduate to the more resource-heavy tools that have more features, have more plugins, and they are more like a all-in-one solution. So that's how I would plan out monitoring in the CN.
Asante sana.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for being able to answer those questions. I noticed there is another question in the chat, but I'm proposing that we pend it because we've got a panel of speakers who are going to also talk about the experiences using various tools as well. So probably that question might already be answered in that particular discussion. And at this point, otherwise, if it's not answered, I think then we can be able to follow up on it later on. At this point in time, we are moving into the experience sharing session. And as I mentioned earlier on, we've got three panelists. We've got Benson Olobo from BOSCO, and then we've got Brian Longwe who is the CEO of Converged Technology Networks. And then also I've got Stephen Fosu, who is the telecommunications engineer at the Presbyterian Hospital at the Presbyterian Hospital. I can't read the other part, I can't read properly. Yes, so to start with, I'll be inviting Benson, who is the telecommunications engineer at BOSCO. And a bit about Benson. Benson holds a Bachelor of Electrical Engineering, and he has a background of over 8 years of experience in computer systems administration and network administration. He also has over 5 years of workshop experience, prototyping and building hardware and software electronic devices, and several years of designing and installation of solar-powered and battery-powered systems. He also has got experience in building and working with a community network, and that is the BOSCO Uganda Community Network. Benson, this is your time. Over to you to be able to share your experiences, the tools, and the strategies that you're utilizing to monitor community networks.
Yes, thank you very much, James. And thank you, Kevin, for a very good presentation that you put. You've actually covered very many tools that we've been using at BOSCO. But so just diving into the tools that we've been using at BOSCO to monitor the network. So we're using Cacti, which you already introduced. Kevin has already introduced very well. So at BOSCO, this is Cacti for us to a tool that we use for to monitor. It has a very simple dashboard that when you log in and then you look at the dashboard, that's something that you do first thing in the morning, maybe, or even you can just from your, even before you go to the office, you can, from the dashboard, you can tell the uptime, and then it also shows the host IP. It also gives you the how long a packet is sent to reach the host in milliseconds, and then host availability. So from the dashboard, you can easily tell that, okay, this host actually is down. So then you can now move to the next thing before, yes, just to help you troubleshoot faster. So Cacti also helps to show the bandwidth utilization for particular IP. So for example, at BOSCO, we have several clients. You can tell how much bandwidth is used by a particular client. And then sometimes maybe an ICT center is maxing all its bandwidth, and then you can tell using that tool that, okay, the bandwidth now is maxed using Cacti. So a bit of the advantages that we've noticed with Cacti at BOSCO here, it's because Cacti is open source and simple, very simple to deploy. Very simple to deploy. And then, of course, every device that needs to be monitored should support SNMP protocol. So there's some old devices that you might find on your network, but then it doesn't support the SNMP protocol. So that device will be difficult to monitor. Then the second tool that we're using is Nagios. Nagios also it also has a very simple dashboard. You can just, at a glance, you look at it, you'll see like a graph where you can see all the available hosts. If you see all green, you know that, okay, all these hosts are all okay. You don't have nothing, you don't have anything to worry about. But sometimes you look at the dashboard and you see everything is showing red. So there, you know for sure the network is having some issues. So it is it's a very good tool. Can help you to alert you of what's happening on your network before you start receiving calls even from users on the network. It also has apart from the dashboard that shows the graph, there's another dashboard where you can drill more, where you can see the status of each devices which are listed. Some devices, sometimes if the link is performing poorly, you can see there's a state like flapping. And then also if a link has gone down, you can really see that, okay, this link went down at this time, and then it has been down for this long. So sometimes, like at BOSCO, I remember a scenario where I think a remote site, a battery was stolen in the middle of the night. So in the morning when we came, and then we found the link was down. But when we drill down using the Cacti, sorry, with Nagios, we could actually like point a finger and say, okay, this the link went down at around 2 a.m. Maybe that's what maybe that's the time something happened. So when we went to the site, actually we found that battery had been stolen. So that actually helped the community in pressing like a police procedure to trace, and then we reported. At least we could know the time at which something happened like that. So the advantage with this tool is still, again, simple to deploy. It's also a very free tool, free tool to get and just install. So those are the free tools that we're using. And then there are also tools which are embedded in the devices that we're using. Within the Ubiquity device, which I know that there are many networks that are not using Ubiquity, but in case you're using Ubiquity, Ubiquity has some a tool in there. There are about 2 tools which I've found very useful. The AirView, which helps to analyze the spectrum. sometimes you might set up a link and it's working fine, then you come back later on, it's not performing well. So part of the reason maybe there's another device nearby that's causing interference. So if you're using Ubiquiti, within that, there's a very nice tool to help you analyze the spectrum within the area. Then maybe you can change the frequency to something that's more free in case you had assigned the device frequency that is being encroached on. The advantage that it comes free, you don't have to pay anything extra, because once you buy the radio, it's already in it. Yeah. So then also within the Ubiquiti device, we have a tool like the speed test tool. So Kevin was talking about the throughput and bandwidth. So when you set up a radio link, you'll definitely need to test how much, what's the bandwidth of the link, because sometimes maybe you're not pushing all the bandwidth to the client. Yeah, so you can use the speed test tool within the radio that you can determine how much bandwidth you can push through the link. It's also free. You don't have to pay anything extra to use that tool. So, and then the last tool that's it's also within the MikroTik that you buy. When you buy a MikroTik device, you can install what they call a dude. There's a dude server. It's also free. You can put that. The unique thing with the dude, you can actually just download it and install it just like the other Cacti or Nagios on a separate computer, and then you deploy. So that will also help both to monitor bandwidth and then the availability of the devices on the network. So most of these tools that we installed at BOSCO, we didn't have to buy additional hardware. We just used old computers that are lying around, and then also the other thing is that you can just decide to use some other open tool, source tools like Proxmox to virtualize, and then you share the hardware, because these tools don't actually consume a lot of space. They're very small and they're light, so it's easy to deploy them. Yeah, so that is briefly what I have to share. Thank you. Back to you, James.
Thank you so much, Benson. That's very interesting. So what we're going to do is we would allow all the speakers to actually speak, and then if you've got any questions, please remember to put the questions in the chat, and then we can be able to ask that afterwards. And just a reminder to everyone that if you're not speaking, please make sure that you mute your mic. That way we don't have any interference on the call. Now we're moving on to the next speaker. The next speaker is Brian Longwe. And Brian Longwe is the co-founder and CEO of Converged Technology Networks in Malawi. And CTN is a startup service provider that is currently rolling out a 4G LTE network for fixed wireless access in Longwe, Malawi. And Brian has been building and managing internet networks around the African continent for the past 25 years. In the 90s and 2000s, he played a key role in the development of Africa's nascent internet sector, having pioneered digital internet connectivity in Kenya in the mid-90s, as well as personally built or facilitated the establishment of internet exchange points in over 13 African countries, as well as contributing significantly to the creation and establishment of various critical African institutions, such as Afrinic, AfriSPA, and AFNOG, among others. Now, moving over to Brian. Over to you, Brian.
Thank you, James, for the generous introduction. I will be brief, or as we say in Kenya, which is not very good for a man to say, mine will be short. And I will try to save time in the interest of being able to give other participants on the call a chance to sort of interact. As mentioned in the introduction, we've been running our network here in Malawi. It's a startup. We started 3 years ago, and we only just recently pivoted to implementing 4G LTE. From the beginning, we've been using the low-cost, unlicensed technologies from Ubiquiti and Equitec. So without further ado, I'll jump into the tools that we've been using over the period that we've been at work, because I think this is a show and tell part of our meeting. So let me try to share my screen and see if it comes up as I would like it to come up. Let me know when you can see.
Yes, Brian, we can see it.
All right, super. So what I have up here on the screen is a browser window which shows Proxmox. Now, I've decided to start off, first of all, by showing Proxmox is not really a tool. Proxmox is a hypervisor. It was just mentioned by Olobo, by Stephen, that Proxmox is a useful way of being able to run many servers. So the first thing that I've decided to show is the fact that within Proxmox, you can actually have servers and monitor them. So for example, we have a unified controller running. This is for a client that we provide with unified management. We have UISP, which is what UNMS has been called now. The Ubiquiti Network Management System is nowadays called UISP. So I have a virtual machine which is running UISP. And just by clicking on that, we're able, if we go to the summary, to get a quick look at the, the health of the server. What is its memory usage? You can see it's been allocated 4 gigabits of memory, and it's using about 87% of that. CPU usage is at 8.4% of 4 CPUs. The disk is 32 GB. That's what we've allocated. There are a few graphs that come up which allow us to see CPU usage, memory usage, and the likes. So just from within the tool that allows us to manage the virtual machines, we're able to get a quick glance at the physical state of these devices. There's a few more tools available that allow us to go in a little bit deeper. We can open a console, log into the system. We can make hardware changes on the fly and so on, but I won't get into that. I just wanted to share that we're using Proxmox. We have 2 hypervisors. Each of them are running on actually very inexpensive hardware. This one is running on a slightly newer server. It's an HP ProLiant DL20 server, which goes at just below $1,000. And with 16 GB of RAM and a 1 terabyte hard disk, it's able to carry all these different servers that you see here. We also have, you can see there Libre NMS, but it's not running at the moment. We decided to put a hold on that. And that's because of something I'll mention later on. And I think you'll be able to understand why. We have another hypervisor. This was our first one. This is a different server. I've just changed tab on the browser. And this was our first hypervisor that we set up back in 2019. This is running a machine which is probably about 20 years old. It's a really, really, really ancient IBM server, which has a mix and match of RAM from this manufacturer, that manufacturer, the other manufacturer. So, this is a perfect example of, what you'd call a bootstrapped environment, but using very, very low cost. I think the total cost when we bought this server, because we didn't have much money when we started, the whole thing cost less than, I think, $300, this server. At the moment, you can see it doesn't even have a rounded number of RAM. The total RAM it has is 13.66, because it's got some 2 gigabit chips in there. It's got, I think, a 512 megabyte chip. It's got some 4 gigabyte chips. So all of them together add up to 13.6 GB. And then it's got 66 GB only of storage on its hard disk. But what we're doing on that one is we're running Splinks, which is our ISP billing and provisioning system. We're running Cacti, which gives us our graphing for customers. And we just recently set this up, which is an IP address management system. It's called IPAM, an open source tool, which is very helpful because now that our network has grown, we just received a block of IP addresses from Afrinic the other day at /22. We really need to keep track of what is where, which IP addresses have been assigned to what, which are the point-to-point IP addresses, where do those go, and so on and so forth. So we have this IP address management tool, which helps us to sort of stay on top of that. So I'm going to now switch screens and go to Splinx. Splinx is a commercial tool, right? It's our billing and provisioning system. But it's something that we find very useful in terms of being able to provide us with especially customer-related statistics. So, you know, this is live. This is the number of customers currently connected. We've got tickets. It has a ticket function where our NOC is able to open tickets. If I go to the customer list over here, it will show me all the currently connected customers. So the currently connected customers, what service are they on, how much are they paying, which router are they connected to, which typically will define the point of presence, what plan are they on. Everything in green means they're online, and then towards the bottom, we'll start getting into, okay, we have more pages because our customer base has grown. We start getting into reds and blues, which means that the account is active, but it's not connected. And way at the bottom, there's some that have been rendered inactive because their subscription lasts, and there are others that are blocked because they haven't paid for their subscription. And if we just sort of jump in and, you know, click a particular user, we're then able to get a little bit deep dive. This is one of the things that we like about it, is that it gives us some statistics about the specific customer. So if you go into the statistic tab, it uses RRD tool, which was developed by Tobias Otika, and is able to give us a graph of the usage. And we're able to sort of drill down and drill up hourly, weekly, monthly, annual, in terms of the graphic. So this is something else that we find very useful. I saw in the discussion, or rather in the chat, that Michuki was mentioning how you can use SNMP to actually go deeper and get the specific OID of a port and monitor that port. So the monitoring function on Splinx actually supports the ability to go into a particular router and then pull the SNMP OIDs by doing what is called an SNMP walk. So you do an SNMP walk, and it actually logs into that device remotely by SNMP, and it starts pulling all the different OIDs. And once it's pulled all of those, you're able to then have a list, and it allows you to choose the specific port you want to monitor. In this case, we've picked Ether1 on this particular router for monitoring. I'll jump back into this other browser tab because I want to now show you some of the other tools that we use. And oops, now the presentation is kind of hiding my tab. Oh, there we go. So the UNMS is there. So this is UNMS or UISP. It's the free tool that is provided by Ubiquiti, which I showed you is running in our Proxmox as a virtual server. So this is actually a VM that's running over here. This is the front end, and it's actually currently monitoring our network. It's telling me that right now, the health of our network is not too bad. It's 90% in terms of, well, no, these devices. Network score is 100%. It's happy with the health of the network. It's monitoring both customers as well as backhauls and different sites. It's giving us a running log on this side about customers who are connecting and disconnecting. We're able to go and look at the number of different sites now. So this is the view, which shows we have different towers across the city. And at each of them, if, for example, we move in and we click, let's say, on a sector, it should be able to allow us to drill down and get the device on this side, it's area 18 sector, and we're able to then see what customers are connected to that. Now this one, they've not yet finished updating it to assign customers to the site, but you get the point. These are all the different current radio links that are running. And if we go down to the devices list, we actually are able to see that was a list by client name or device name. Then here we actually see the list of devices. And by clicking on each one of these, we're actually able to get into the specific device itself, see parameters, manage it remotely. So it's a very powerful tool that gives you the ability. You can actually see this sector is currently shifting about 47 Mbps. This is, I think, one of our busiest sectors. It has quite a lot of customers connected to it. Yeah, you can see here 25 currently connected customers. In the interest of time, I'll jump ahead and I'll just show you two quick other tools. One is called NetSpan. This is a commercial tool which allows us to monitor our 4G base stations. So we have 4 base stations that we've set up in different parts of the city. Green, of course, shows that it's healthy. Yellow says that there's something that needs to be looked at. Brown means that there's a minor problem, or well, major problem, but it's not service affecting. The system is actually, the base station is actually running. I'll click on this one so that you can go in and actually see what is this alarm all about. And hopefully to open up, yes, there we go. And it's on the alarm tab, and it shows us that it had an issue because it lost its connection to the MME, which is the main controller, subscriber manager, and the one that controls the system that controls the base stations. And we're able to see what time that occurred. And you know, that was at 8 a.m. this morning. There was a problem that affected its connectivity. So that alarm is there. If I acknowledge the alarm, it allows me to then go ahead and clear it so that we can be able to have green. So we acknowledge the alarm, it's been added to the logs, and now we have a healthy base station. So this is a tool that allows us to remotely manage. All of this, by the way, is being done by SNMP. So, you know, we can actually push provisioning data and information about the frequencies and other settings and parameters by editing the configurations over here. And when we click on push, it actually does all of this via SNMP directly to the base station and allows us to monitor it remotely. Then we have our EPC. This is the evolved packet core. It's the heart of the network. It's the MME that the base station was complaining it can't connect to. And this is basically what carries the user database. So now it's showing us that we have 49 currently connected LTE subscribers, and 49 of them are pushing data. It gives us information about throughput. We're able to actually drill down a little bit deeper to go into the specific individual users and see the specific, setup that we have for them. We're able to look at the cells that have been configured, and from here we can actually add or remove cells. Here we can see this is the busiest base station or cell. It has each of these green and blue are currently connected subscribers. So all of these tools basically allow us to manage the network remotely and take charge or control. As this is important also, I left these alarms here. If we go to the alarm page, we will see that there are 2 alarms here that are reporting that an eNode B has been disconnected. If we go deeper, we'll be able to see the information specific to the alarm. This is because we have some new equipment we just shipped in, and in the office we attached an eNode B in the lab to the EPC to allow us to test it and configure it. Then we detached it as it's now waiting to be deployed at a site in another part of the city. So until it's deployed, we will have an alarm. For now, I've left it there. I've not removed it because I wanted, for purposes of this exercise, to also show some faults, because one of the things that we become very familiar with when we're running networks are faults. There's no way that we can escape faults in the course of running networks. The other final thing that I wanted to just put on the screen quickly is something that we're giving many of our customers. Okay, if I click on OK here, it will log me out. So I'll just leave this image there. This is a partnership we have with a company called Untangle, and we're beginning to put these devices into quite a few of our customers' networks. It's a firewall, which allows us, a firewall system which allows us to do remote monitoring and management. It sits inside the customer network and allows them to control and manage how their internet resources are being used. This one goes further by providing the ability, for example, this particular one that I was looking at is remote access to a firewall device that sits in a university, a Bible school. So because it's a Bible university, a theological institution, they don't want any pornography, they don't want any kind of negative content to be available to the staff or to the students. So we've put actual application control blocks, content control blocks that allow them now to enforce the policy of the institution on the way that the internet resource is used. And this screen that was here was just giving a view of the top applications that are being accessed by different users on the network. It's possible also to go a bit deeper and see who are the top users and so on and so forth. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you so much, Brian. Yeah, I think this is very interesting. Multiple tools are being shared. Some of them available for free, some available for commercial. But I think from what I've been able to see from the two presenters, I think multiple tools we can be able to leverage on, acquire, and then be able to use, I think, to monitor our networks. I want to urge you all to also engage in the chat. There are multiple conversations which are going on there. And if you're able to go through the conversation, probably you might also be able to learn one or two things that is being shared there. On next to the next presenter, the next speaker is Stephen Fosu. So Stephen is with is a telecommunications engineer with a close to decade work experience in both the public and private sectors of Ghana. So currently, Stephen is the head of IT at the Presbyterian Hospital, and is a remote community in the eastern region of Ghana. That's where the hospital is located. He's leading the development of technical and innovative solutions towards transforming the operations of the center. Additionally, Stephen is a co-founder of Step Network, which is a technology-based company which specializes in building community networks and promoting digital accessibility and literacy. He has a background as a CCNA engineer with proven skills in Linux servers, Windows, cybersecurity, which has resulted in the development of very affordable and safe networks for many rural-based facilities, like the Samureboy Community Network. He holds a degree in telecommunications engineering, a diploma in computer network management, and additional professional certification from CCNA. Stephen Fosu, this is your time now. Please share your experiences.
Good. Thank you, James. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending where you are. Yeah, as is said. Yeah, James. Hello? Hello?
Yes. Stephen,
yeah, I'll
present
here. I'll use different presentation here.
That's fine.
Okay.
Please go on.
Thank you. So, as you said, my name is Fosu, co-founder of Step Network. As already has been discussed on the platform, network monitoring tools are tools that help administrators monitor their network more effectively. I will go straight to present on our experiences, implementation of some network monitoring tools and their advantages and disadvantages and what we are using them for. Now, Step Network, as you rightly said, a technology-based company which specializes in building community network, and as you also said, we promote digital accessibility and literacy in rural areas. Yeah, of course, there will not be any meaningful connectivity if people do not have digital literacy skills to access connectivity. Our major project is the Samaboy Community Network, which was established early this year, February 2021, and the main purpose is to extend connectivity to areas that tend to have a little or no connectivity, and also to provide a virtual learning platform for the schools over there. A minute, I'm sharing my screen here. Okay. Yeah. So effective network monitoring is important to help ensure that our network infrastructure is up and running for users that depend on our network. Some of our community, we use network monitoring tools like the PFSense, the Nagios Core, the Zabis, and the Kata monitoring tool. I will tackle on three of the monitoring tools with the advantage and disadvantage or limitation and what we use them for. PFSense, as you can see displayed on my screen, PFSense is free and open source operating system for routers and firewalls. What we typically configured PFSense here is on the Summerboy community network as a firewall. Though Summerboy community network is an open network, and as people keep connected to the network, they are exposed to the internet. So therefore, there's a need to ensure cybersecurity. We also use as a router that's also serve as a gateway for all our users on the network to the internet. It also helps us to kind of the DHCP serve as a DHCP server where it assigns IP address to clients on our network dynamically. And then we also use it as a DNS, whereby we are able to resolve IPs into domain names. It also helps us in terms of our Wi-Fi access points. That means the PFSense is capable to host our captive portal. That is a web page that controls any HTTP browser access to the internet. So in this case, a user on the wireless network or on the network trying to access the internet would be redirected to a page, either for both authentication and payment or just for authentication. PFSense helps us also to monitor active users and then the batches that we have on the network. It also has a nice and then a wonderful graphic, and then also give us a real-time traffic. That is, we are able to determine the bandwidth in and the bandwidth out. So the bandwidth in from our ISP, whether our ISP you told us you're giving us maybe 10 megabits per second, we are getting 5 megabits per second. PFSense does give us the real time, and then we also know amount of bandwidth that our users are transmitting on our network. With these great features, PFSense also comes with additional advantages. One, it is free and open source, as Kevin and Brad and then Benson has also said. Because it is free and it's open source, there is no fee or monthly subscription or yearly subscription. And because the nature of it as an open source, the codes are available, and we are able to twist or manipulate to suit our needs. It's also because because it is open source, it's easier for us to add or integrate additional features. The one thing that it's really helping us on the network is we're able to integrate free radios to the PFSense. It's cost effective because yes, because it's free and we are not bothered with monthly subscription or yearly subscription. So we kind of not spend much money on it. It also has a wonderful graphical user interface that is easy for us to configure it. As you can see on my screen over there, as you can see on the dashboard, this is a wonderful graphical user interface that it helps us to configure our PFSense. Though BSS is great and it's open source, but it's also come with some limitation or let's say disadvantage. One of the disadvantage is non-technical minded person will just lose interest in it because it's not easy to just go to the graphical user interface and then just click, and then it start working. No, it needs a little patience to know what exactly what you want to do. It also have a graphical command line interface whereby if you are able to log yourself through the graphical user interface, you can go there and research it, and it's quite high level skills to do that, because if you don't understand the graphical user interface, you will end up, I mean, not being so interested in the PSS. Another one that we use, that's Kevin, Benson has also mentioned, that is the Nagios. It seems like we are all using the same monitor to run our network. So what we, in case of, as we he said, the Nagios is free and open source, as Kevin has already said over there. We also use it to monitor the status of our network devices and their services, and also it also notify us of network problems. So in case of any fault, Nagios sends notification alert using various methods to prevent further damage. It can also deliver the result in a visual representation format and report, as you can see. This is a screenshot of our Nagios. You can see some are on, some are off. So it's telling us which particular place the antenna is off. As you can see that I try to connect to the server, but I'm having a little issue here. As Kevin said already, because it is open source, and then we were able to trace it. No, Nagios doesn't have graphical user interface to configure it, so it's a kind of a tedious tool to work with. But the advantage of it is also, as Kevin said, Nagios is very lightweight. It's very lightweight because it doesn't depend on a database to pull information or give you the information. It doesn't store the information in its database because you have no database. So it is lightweight and can run on any machine. As Brand also said, it can monitor many devices. That's one thing about Nagios, and it have no limit. You have no limitation of the number of devices that you can monitor. Nagios also comes with a nice, network map that you can see which antenna is connected to which, and then which one is parent of this, which one is a child of this. It gives a nice map that's, I see it to be great for us to know which antenna is hooked to this, that is off. Upon all these great features, as Kevin, Brown, and Benson have said, it also comes with its own disadvantage and limitation. The learning curve is, it's not easy for a new user, because you have no graphical user interface. We do everything using the command line, which requires somebody who has a high level technical skills to do that. For instance, myself, it took me 1.5 years to master Nagios, and it was not easy. Nagios also have it, I think those who are not familiar with command line, there's another version. They have the enterprise version, which have a nice graphical user interface that you can use to configure. But what you do is very expensive. You can check on it. Nagios also have a less documentation. The documentation of Nagios is less. It's not compared to other ones that you have a large community, because because it is the cost side. People don't really, understand how it is. So you kind of go online, you get the documentation. What you want is, it doesn't get the right thing that you want. One thing about the Nagios too, as it's a disadvantage to Linux, advantage to Windows and Mac users. But we, those of us who are experts in Linux, is no advantage in which we like it, we see it, we become happy. But to the Windows people, they will tell you, hey, Steve, it's a disadvantage, put it there. because Nagios is designed to run on Linux operating system. So if anybody wish to run it on Windows, it's either you use the third party, that is you use the virtual box or the VMware. So that's some of the limitation that that Nagios come with. Another one that we use is the Zabis. We were using Kata. That was when we're using the Ubuntu 16. That's the Linux operating system, Ubuntu 16. But when we upgraded it to Ubuntu 20, we were having issues with the Kata. So we decided to switch to the Zabis, which is also an open source. So the Zabis is also an open source that we really use it to monitor our system. What we really use it for is we use much of the graphic aspects to monitor the bandwidth that comes in. That because though PSN is doing that, but we still go with the Nagios because we still go with the Zabis because it also gives a more light on it and then can tell you what actually is wrong with the system. So it also comes with advantages, and some of the advantages, as we already said, it's open source. It also has a nice graphical user interface. It's not like the Nagios that have no graphical user interface to do your configuration. It also comes with a real-time traffic graphic, as the PSF will also do it, but it has more features and plugins compared to the PSS. One advantage that we use also is that they have no limitation the number of devices that you want to add. If only you support, as Brian said, SNMP, and then you have the Zabis agents, fine, it's good to go. And another feature that we also like about this is the auto discovery server and network devices. That is, if it is well configured, any network device that you put on the device, Zabis is ready to monitor it and to add it to the template that you assign to it to monitor. So it has that great feature too. That's the reason why we use it. And Zabis also comes with a disadvantage. That is also the learning curve is not easy for new users. As Brian also said, or I think Zabis is because it depends on the database. So the more you add network device, the more your database keep on increasing, and then it's now up to increase your memories and then your processing, your processors. Nagios also run, the Zabis also run on the Linux operating system. As I said earlier on, if you want to try it, you have to use the virtual box or we have also required a high level technical skills to configure it. There's one app that we also designed to track all our virtual code that the community use, which we designed specifically for the Summerboard community network. That's designed by Peter and I. So what we do is that we were having challenges with people complaining that, oh, in the nights we needed a data to go online to do research. May be rainy and people may say, okay, we can't come out to get the water. So what we did was we developed an app that the simple web app that we called it that the people use to make their donation. So what happens is that when a user comes on our network, the first portal that you see, mostly in community network or in community hotspot, what if a person connects to, how do you call it, the network, the first thing the person will see is a login page that will give you login with your username or enter your voucher or your ticket or whatever. Our own doesn't work like that. With the help of PSS, that we were able to integrate certain codes into it. So what happens is that when you connect, the first portal that you see is this donation app that will tell you to donate, or you should log in. If you have the code that has been printed, you go to log in to go online. Then when you click on it, you simply redirect to this page for you to enter your code. But if you don't have, and then you want to use the e-cash, that is the mobile money, you just go on the donate, and then you donate 2 cedis for 2 days unlimited. 2 cedis in Ghana, equivalent to the US dollar is 0.33, which is less than $1 for 2 days without any restriction, without any bandwidth code for you. And then 5 cedis, which is equivalent to $0.88, that's also make the person browse or be on the internet for 6 days. So the person just click on donate, and then it will ask for a number to enter. So the person just enter his or her number. That is what's happening, is that it will redirect you to the payment gateway for the person to do the payment. So you just confirm your number, and then you take time to give you an OTP, which is a one-time password. So it come here, and what's happening is that it will generate a code, and then the person will just click on copy and receive, and then click here to visit the portal. So when the person click here to visit portal, I direct the person back to the portal for the person to log in to go online. That means the person should have internet access. Then here, of course, then we have the administration portal, whereby the administration can monitor, the administrator or whoever is in charge can monitor the amount or the number of water that has been purchased. For it is good for us for our finances, and then we are also to track the number of people who are making donation or monitor the number of people who are making donation. Earlier on, I uploaded the code, the demo code, which is 20, total card is 20. And then this one sold, that is what I just purchased, and then it will tell me the remaining. So when I come here and I click on it, I will see the code, and then I will see the number that I just entered, and then it tells you use. We use this one for customer care, or let's say members in the community. Somebody may say, "Oh, Steve, as I was doing in the process, my phone went off or something happened, but I couldn't get the code." Then what you do, you mention the person's number, and then you ask the person the time the person make the payment. The person will tell you, okay, at this time that we made the payment. Then you are able to mention the code for us. So far, this is what we have done. It's a simple app that we have done, that in the near future we are hoping to add more features to it. So this is another way of also monitoring our ticket or the voucher code. So what Peter and I have decided is that we will give this app free of charge to any group of people or any community or any person who want to have a community hotspot or have a community network. So it's also part of our contribution to help community networks in Africa. I will end here, and then if ready for questions. Over to you, James. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you so much. I think the sessions have really been quite practical. They've been able to demonstrate how they're using the various tools. So I think that one in its own is interesting. I think this is the time that we can be able to have a conversation, a discussion with the presenters. And I would like to allow for very few minutes, probably maximum 5 minutes, that we can be able to ask questions, if any. I know there are multiple questions in the chat, but I also noticed that some have already been answered. So I will not work on those that have already been answered. I'll just ask those that haven't been answered. And if you've got any question or comment, I think you're also welcome to raise your hand, and then we can be able to allow you to speak. So a quick one, within the chat, Brian has been able to provide a list of all the network monitoring tools that has been able to share, but also the billing and administration tools with some functions for monitoring have also been shared. There are links there. Okay, questions. So I think the first question was coming from Alphonse. I think it was directed to Benson. And the question was, at what layer of the network did you embed the UNMS tools, and how do such tools work and integrate with the open source tools? Benson. If you can quickly answer
yes.
that one.
Thank you, James. I think it may not be coming to me. I didn't mention that tool. Yeah.
I'm scanning through to the next question. And then I think another question directed towards Brian was coming from Conrad. Says, Brian, do you know of company or someone who can set up the monitoring for networks? I think that's how it's come out. I don't know if Conrad is still available and if you can be able to clarify on the question. Or Brian, if you understand the question, you can go ahead and answer.
Yeah, I think there are a number of consultants who are able to assist. Conrad has already mentioned on the chat that he has come up with some tools that can help with this and provide one-click installs. And he has a website. He says Google his name. So I guess that's a resource right here that members can be able to take advantage of.
Great. So what we're also thinking at the program committee level is to be able to compile some of this, and probably can be able to reach out to Conrad as well and get access to that information that can be shared with all the participants here, and then it can also be shared on the events page. So that's going to be made available. If anyone has got a question, you can raise your hand. Otherwise, you notice that most of the questions that were asked have already been responded to in the group, in the chat.
James.
Yes, Benson.
I think the person he meant Ubiquity tools. For the Ubiquity tools, you have to directly log within the Ubiquity radio itself. So it is embedded within the radio. So it's not like you have to deploy it somewhere else on the network. This one comes within the radio. It's part of the firmware of the radio. Thank
you. Okay. Another question, I think coming from Yusuf, I think towards Stephen. For computer payment system, can it be offline, Stephen?
Yes, it's offline. It's offline. It can be both offline or online. So
Great.
what happens is that those who are on the community network don't need internet to access it. They access it locally without internet. But because I'm accessing it outside the network, that's why I'm also using it. So it's both online and offline.
Okay, noted. And then I notice a comment from Conrad, where he's saying many small networks don't have technicians and need help from outside. So we need more people who can help. An online resource that ISOC will be good. So I think he's commenting on the idea where we can be able to consolidate all these into a repository that can be put on, I think, on the event page, or it can be available online, and then people can have access to that. Any questions, or if there's any question that has not been answered, or any panelists would like to also speak or respond to something, I think you are welcome to speak at this point.
Hello?
Hello? Yes,
yes,
Victor, go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much, James. I'm very much impressed with the tools that have been displayed here. My only issue is the comments that it is a bit, you need to be technical savvy to be able to use these tools. And community networks, we are operating in communities that really do not have people with that kind of skills. And so is there a way where we could have ISOC consolidate these tools, these open source tools, of course, with the engineers here, into a sort of a toolkit that could be made available to community networks, and then, of course, to other communities that a desire to have their own technical support for their community networks. Thank you so much.
I think that's a very good point, and I think it'll be taken under consideration. As mentioned at some point at the program committee level, we are also looking at how best we can be able to consolidate this and then be able to share with the participants, but also out there. And I think while we're doing that, I think we would also look into how best we can be able to provide opportunities for capacity building. I know ISOC already has got multiple training, there is a learning platform that is available for ISOC that people can be able to have access to. But I think we can also look at how best can that same resource transition to community members at the community level. So I think that will be taken into consideration. Reaching this far, I would like to thank you all for your active participation in this webinar series. Specifically, I would like to thank ISOC and Association for Progressive Communications, the organizers of this webinar. And I would also like to thank the Community Network Summit in Africa Program Committee, all the members for the effort, energy, resources that have been spent on making this webinar possible. And I think everyone that has been able to avail themselves for this webinar, I would like to thank you. And I'm also thanking the technical team in the background for the support in terms of translation and the support in terms of the technical support that has been provided. Thank you so much. Reaching that far, this is the end of this webinar series, and looking forward to future engagements. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.